Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tech Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with this week's tech guest, but as always, we're going to give our sponsors a shout out. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all great companies. You should be using them with your teams. So take 3 minutes, listen to our sponsor shout outs, then listen to our Tech Tuesday guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown. Hometown continues to be a leader in education-based athletics with their solutions that include things like, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising through School Funder, athletic website construction, the list just goes on and on. Whether you're a principal, an athletic director, or even a head coach, Hometown's going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. Go to hometown.com for more information. That's hometown.com. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys. If you're not using a survey to take the pulse of your players, your coaches, your parents, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that really connects you to everybody in your program. athleticsurveys.com. And don't forget to mention the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every day. Scheduling, rosters, results, facilities. It does all these things and more. Does it better? Does it faster than the other platforms? Go to homecampus.com to get started. You're going to be very glad you did. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and Beacon Creative. Now, Beacon Creative is the embodiment of a content matters philosophy. Their dedicated team of writers and designers work with you on an ongoing basis to help you make your digital tributes shine. They provide you with all the resources needed to celebrate your rich history, highlight your proudest moments, and tell powerful stories. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Click on Content Services. You're going to be very glad you did. Let's also say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant AD did, along with thousands of others. And while they were earning their degree, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Check out all the great tools that they can provide you and your teams and your coaches. That's huddle.com. We want to say thanks to Booster Hub. Booster Hub is the #1 Booster Club software program, and it's the platform your boosters need. It's the platform they deserve. Sponsorship fees, concession sales, you name it, everything goes through their secure system. Volunteer signups, volunteer changes. You know it's going to happen. Nothing falls through the cracks. Everybody stays connected. Go to boosterhub.com for more information. And don't forget to mention the Educational AD Podcast. And finally, we want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper is the modern marketing platform that makes it easy for your athletic department to look like they're Division I, look like they're professional grade without spending extra time or hiring additional staff. Gipper is used and trusted by over 20,000 high schools and colleges. It's professional graphic design made easy. Why is it easy? Well, there are thousands of professionally designed templates that you can customize in your colors, your logo, your brand. Create, share, and schedule all your social media content in one simple platform, and that platform is Gipper. Go to Gipper.com to get started, and as always, tell them you heard about it on the Educational AD Podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Tech Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. Longtime listeners should remember the name, Mark Koesterer. If not, go back to our Spotify archives, take a listen to the interview we had with Mark, I guess now a couple of years ago. He is the founder and director of the Players NIL. Has a tremendous background as a sports leader, sports innovator. He's going to kind of give us an update on all things NIL and more. But Mark Koesterer, welcome to Tech Tuesday.
Thank you, Jake. It's great to see you again. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no, absolutely. We've said this, I think, since NIL first appeared, that it changes on almost a daily basis. Certainly things have changed since we had you on. But give our listeners a little bit of your background before we jump into all things NIL. What's the Mark Koesterer origin story?
Yeah, well, it really starts in my childhood days. My father was a junior high gym teacher, and he had been a college athlete, so athletics was part of my life. And it was during my formative years, my teenage years, where he instilled what we now consider the number one principle of our business, and that is, how do you use athletics to better your life? And for me, being a good high school athlete, not a great high school athlete, it was Division II college athletics. As I tell people with a smile, I was a 6'4" white guy that couldn't dunk a basketball. And so I became a Division II tight end, which, worked out great. Got a scholarship, met the best friends of my life, all of those things that college athletics at any level, at every level, can provide in terms of leadership experiences, challenges, adversity, success, failures, and friendships and career networking opportunities. And so, as a Division II athlete, your last game is your last game. And I quickly developed the second principle of our business, Jake, and that is, for those of us who are past our prime, how do you use athletics to better the lives of the people around you? How do you make a difference? And for me, it was through community athletics, through youth sports, as an administrator, as a part-time coach, but mostly as just a leader in the community trying to provide opportunities for young people. And we were successful with that. In 2008, I got a chance of a lifetime to marry my passion and my vision with my professional corporate experience. And I became the CEO of a company in Los Angeles where, we're probably best known for producing all of the sports content in Hollywood. So TV shows, movies, and commercials. But it was there that I learned about athletes, branding, marketing, social media in the early 2010s, and really was the foundation for name, image, and likeness. We had a successful exit, just fortuitously at the same time that the NIL era began, which was July 1st, 2021. And I decided to jump in, but I decided to come in from a different angle. I'm not an agent. I don't represent athletes, don't make deals, don't take commissions. I'm an educator. My parents are educators. My background is education. And so I believe that that's the one thing that's still missing in the NIL era is healthy and positive education for young people, families, coaches, and administrators.
Yeah, again, I think when people hear about NIL, it's the $1 million stories that have the headlines, and just like with high school athletes, we know that about 4% are going to go on to college, and maybe 4% of those, I don't know the stats, are getting some kind of NIL. I think the vast majority of student athletes are not getting it. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would put the percentages at this. We call, the stories that you hear about, that people are following represent about 2% of college athletes. And it's essentially Power 4 football, men's and women's basketball. There are outliers. I just saw a story on the Texas Tech softball pitcher. She's phenomenal. She's a big NIL story. The Livy Dunn in the early days, the Cavender twins. But for the majority of the stories that you hear, it's about those small group, what we call the 2%. Although they should be interested in education, they're not. We could talk about that, why. But I'm focused on the 98%. Those are the kids that are trying to use athletics to better their lives, right? Non-revenue sports, mid-major sports, D2, D3.
Yeah, and again, you talk about, I remember back in my high school days, I didn't even start for my high school basketball team. It was football, basketball, and I ran track. But I in the back of my head, I knew I was going to be a college basketball player because I just loved basketball. But obviously, nobody was looking for a 6'2" forward that really couldn't shoot that well. So I ended up, went to an NAIA school played football, ran track, and like you said, met the best friends of my life, and got my start in sports, which was teaching and coaching. Let's go and jump right into your platform, the Players NIL. A lot of resources, as you talked about. You're an educator. Go ahead and share with our listeners. What are some of the features of the Players NIL website, and why should they be interested? And you should be interested.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think it's been an interesting journey. So since we launched 4+ years ago, Jake, we've pivoted 4 times because my original vision for really strict and regimented NIL education didn't work. It failed, right? I built this amazing platform of online education, these 5 pillars of NIL education, and no one cared. And it was pretty humbling. It's been a little bit of a, humble pie experience. But in true athletic fashion, we didn't give up, right? We tried to understand what was going on. And here's what I've learned is that traditional education is being challenged at all levels today. Kids don't want to be learning something that they don't care about. And they want to know, what is it that's going to affect them today or maybe tomorrow. They don't care about the future very much. And so what we've done is we've tried to go out and now spoken to 74 colleges and universities around the country and almost 5,000 high school athletes in the last couple of years in person. And what I've learned is that there's a couple of universal truths. Number one is you can't teach them something that you think is valuable if they don't think it's valuable. So we need to meet them where they are. What's important to them? And let's break it down into 2 categories, the college athlete or rising college athlete and the high school athlete. We'll start with college. For the majority of them, again, who are not going on to play professional sports, who are not getting the $1 million NIL deals or even the $50,000 NIL deals, they want to graduate and they want to get a job, right? Graduate and get a job. That's really, at the end of the day, that's what I hear universally from college athletes. So how can we give them the skills to do that? And here's again, the premise is if you're an athlete or a former college athlete, you're going to be looked at differently in every room that you go in for the rest of your life. But how do you leverage that? Right? If someone walked into a meeting and they said that they played NAIA football, you would look at them differently than somebody that didn't. And so how do you leverage that? How do you create opportunities for the future, for the long term? At the high school level, they want to go to college. They want to get a scholarship or they want to play sports in college. And so how do we meet them where they are? And what we've learned is that there's 3 universal life skills that apply to both categories. And quite honestly, Jake, it applies to you and me still at our senior age and retired age. The one is, how do you build a personal brand? We could talk about that, but essentially it means, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? And for the high school athletes, what do the coaches think about you when you're on the sideline, not in between the lines? Okay. Number 2 is storytelling. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you represent? Why should I be interested in you as a recruit? And number 3 is networking. And at the high school level, it's, big school, small school, country school, city school. Where do you want to go? How do you build a target list? How do you communicate and tell your personal brand and your story to those potential coaches in the recruiting process? And that's what we've learned. So we don't call it NIL education. We call it these 3 life skills. But really, what the NIL era has done for us, Jake, is empowered athletes to build a brand, tell a story, and network. And if we're not teaching those life skills at all of these levels, then I think we're doing a disservice to the athletes, to the families, and quite honestly, to anyone in the ecosystem.
Wow, great points. And these are opportunities that are available, as you mentioned, to just about anybody who has that athletic experience. Because we know this. Yeah, we want to win, and yeah, the games are fun and all that. But as a coach, as an educator, we're using sports to teach things that employers are going to want. Hard work and organization and teamwork, dedication, sacrifice, commitment. Things that they can be learned elsewhere, but are just such a natural outgrowth of the athletic experience. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, totally. I think we call them soft skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe if you're a mathematician, that's a hard skill. If you're a scientist, that's a hard skill. If you're an accountant, that's a hard skill, right? Those are certain things. But it's the soft skills that athletics can do. And, I always point this out. It could be art, music, science. It could be some other thing. For me, it was athletics. For my company, it's sports. And for, my customers, it's sports. So I think employers today want self-starters, right? They want people that they don't have to babysit. And unfortunately, we raise a bunch of generation where, they got a trophy every Saturday for getting up and going to soccer practice, and so there's not a lot of self-starters out there. There's not a lot of people that are independent thinkers. There's not a lot of people that are self-motivated. And I think if we can allow sports to teach us that, to show up on time, to make sure we have all of our equipment, so to speak, we didn't forget our baseball bat at home or our cleats at home, that we're going to come to work in an office environment, in a corporate environment, even though it may be remote, and add value to the organization and not be a distraction. And I think that's what athletics can teach.
Now, talking about the Players NIL, the actual website, a ton of resources for student athletes, even sport management students, coaches and leaders. And just like I have the athletic director's toolbox, of which you are a contributor, you're in the fourth edition of the athletic director's toolbox, you have on your website an NIL toolbox. Can you share with our listeners some of the items that are in that toolbox?
Yeah, I think, it would be a disservice to discount the athletes that are interested in NIL opportunities. All right. We talk about life skills. Everyone should be interested. But there's a lot of athletes that are trying to figure out, can they make, money? Can they become, is there a transactional opportunity? But there's a couple of numbers that I want to point out. Number one is 2025, last year, the median NIL deal, which means half the deals were greater, half the deals were less, was $50 in all of college athletics. It's not the $1 million that everyone thinks about. So it's the small town college athlete that's doing a deal with the pizza shop, the sushi store, the local insurance company, the car wash, the landscaping company, etc. 62% of all NIL deals, 62% of all NIL deals were under $100. Okay? So it's not what everyone thinks. The toolbox is a step-by-step guideline to building an NIL brand. It involves outreach to local businesses because 80% of NIL deals are based on local business relationships. What does an email look like? It has sample email formats for you, templates. We have sample social media posts. What are the difference between Instagram and TikTok? How should you position yourself, right? What is storytelling involved? There's a financial literacy section, okay? There is a legal section because a lot of these kids that are in the NIL space are entering into agreements. They have no idea what they're entering into, right? What are lifetime rights? What is intellectual property? What are the tax implications? Is it going to affect my financial aid, right? So the toolbox takes a deep dive into all of these really technical aspects of building an NIL brand and being successful at it.
Yeah. Again, so many things that the first thing I think, whether it's kids or parents, sometimes even coaches, they just hear and see the dollar signs and don't think about some of these other things. How involved have you gotten with, say, state associations, high school associations? I think now it's over half associations have a policy, an NIL policy for their member schools. Have you worked with any associations, or have you been involved with that yet?
Yeah, it's over 40 states across the country now that have authorized NIL at the high school level. Okay, and so I think NIL is going to be bigger in high school than it is in college. You got more athletes, you got less restrictions, and you have crazy parents, right? And so that's just the prescription for an explosion, in my opinion. And already, I saw Duke basketball signed a junior in high school to an NIL deal that's going to pay him for his junior and senior year in high school, an NIL deal, in hopes that he'll enroll at Duke, right? So it's only a matter of time. The state associations have been hesitant, right? Because at its core, NIL is risky, right? It's entrepreneurial, and it's unknown. And quite honestly, Jake, the state high school athletic directors and the state high school athletic associations are neither of those things. And so they've been hesitant and they've been unsure. And there hasn't been great leadership, quite honestly, across the country by state organizations. And we don't have a lot of rules and we don't have any enforcement. And so, I'm looking to athletic directors, administrators, coaches, state level leaders to embrace this because it's not going away. And I think to put your head in the sand and pretend that it isn't going to affect you is a mistake. And I think we're not protecting kids. And I would like to see a mandatory NIL education platform in high school. I would like to see some certification for agents and representation, and an enforcement of some basic rules around transferring, just like you see in college. And so I have not worked with any direct organizations officially. I've consulted with a lot of people that have questions. And quite honestly, I've been disappointed across the country with the state level leadership.
Yeah, you make an interesting comment, and I guess on one hand it does sound logical, and you're certainly the expert in this, not me. There's many, many more high school athletes, student athletes, than there are college student athletes. So NIL, certainly has the potential to be much bigger. I guess I look at it through a different lens. So tell me if I'm wrong on this. That because only 4% are going on to college, those more gifted athletes, let's say the NIL worthy student athlete, there's fewer of them now at the high school level. Now, at the same time, I heard this from a very well-respected athletic director, county AD in the state of Georgia, who apparently they mandate that schools report if their student athletes have some kind of NIL deal. And I think I'm probably going to get the numbers wrong, but I think his district had something like 10,000 student athletes in all the schools, and there was less than 100 NIL deals for a given year this past year. And he added this part, the AD added this part, that the most, the highest NIL, the most money was from a kid whose grandparents' dairy was the sponsor. And the kid wasn't even like a starting athlete. They just, reported this gift that they gave him. So I guess my point, I guess I'm asking, what do you think, or why do you think that just off of sheer volume that high school NIL is going to be bigger than college NIL? I know that was a tremendously vague question.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the rough numbers reported are about 8 million kids playing sports in high school, 8 million, about 500,000 in college, 530,000, I think the number is. Okay. So there's some numbers to it. I think your example of the Georgia athletic system probably is in line with the way it is across the country. But remember, we're not talking about NIL education. We're talking about life skills. And what is the number one principle of our business? How do you use athletics to better your life? So of those 10,000 athletes, Jake, I would rhetorically ask, how many want to play sports in college? And do they know how to distinguish themselves in order to create recruiting opportunities? So we don't call it NIL education. We call it life skills, but we use NIL principles. So let's be specific. Let's use an example. I'm very close to the college lacrosse space. So those are the numbers that I know. With the new house settlement, the mandated roster is 48 in a college lacrosse, men's Division I lacrosse team. On average, on any given Saturday, about 25 kids touch the field. Okay? So that leaves, math, 23 kids that don't play on Saturdays. Okay? And I'm sure we can apply these numbers to football and baseball and basketball, et cetera. But I know lacrosse. So I'm a college lacrosse coach, and I'm out recruiting in the summertime. Everyone knows who the star athletes are, right? We could tell who's fastest. We could tell who's bigger. We could tell who's got more athletic hips than the others, right? That becomes pretty obvious. And everyone's recruiting those kids. But in order to run a college athletic program, specifically men's lacrosse, you need 48 on the roster, Jake. So who's number 26 through 48? Maybe they're not the most talented athletes, but a personal brand is really important. Are they going to be a problem in the locker room? Are they good students? Are they good citizens? Will they practice hard? Are they reliable? Will they stay healthy? right? And so if you're in the top 25, whatever sport it is, or that you're going to see the field regularly or the court, great, good for you. You may have many options. But there's a lot more spots for kids to be on the roster and to get into a great school that they might not normally get into without sports. And so although the numbers that you reported from your contact in Georgia are probably true, let's not focus on the 100. Let's focus on the 10,000 that want to play in college, right? Let's bring meaningful education to them that will be universal throughout their life, okay? And so how do you behave off the field, right? How do you tell your story in a recruiting email or a social media post, or do you go and visit them, right? How do you network? Who are the coaches that you should be talking to? Big school, small school, city school, country school. And so if we're focused on NIL as a transactional situation, as a transactional world, Jake, we're missing the whole point, right? And I think athletic directors need to understand, stop worrying about the 100 kids that are getting NIL deals, even though one of them's from the grandfather's dairy farm. What about the other 9,990 that are trying to play Division III softball, that are just trying to get into college, to get a slot in admissions because they can run fast and jump high, right? And are good citizens and may fill those roster spots from 26 to 48 and round out a complete team so that the coach can practice efficiently, so that the locker room's healthy, so that the brand of the team stays solid in the community and with the administration on campus. So although your numbers are right, I think to focus on that is a mistake.
No, and again, that's exactly why we need you on the podcast to share this information. Great stuff. In fact, you used some of my earlier argument about the benefits of sports participation. Great stuff. Mark, obviously we need to bring you back more frequently because the topic, as I mentioned earlier, it's ever changing, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. So let's go and cut to the chase. The website is theplayersnil.com. One of the resources is the NIL toolbox. If they want to find out more, if they want to pick your brain, how can our listeners find out more and connect with Mark Koesterer?
Yeah, so we have a couple resources on the website. I've written 3 books now. The NIL toolbox is number 3. Unlocking Influence, about the history of influencers and what influence athletes can create over their future. And NIL for All, which is the strict NIL education if people are interested in that. So 3 books. I have a podcast. I post regularly on LinkedIn and on social media. I do offer a free 15-minute evaluation. It's on the website if someone would like to just listen or has questions about his or her athletes, no matter what their college aspirations are. How do you use athletics to better your life? Let's build a plan and a roadmap to success. So the playersnil.com gives you everything you need.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned LinkedIn. You also have in case you missed it, NIL newsletter that you post. So
Yep, weekly newsletter.
Okay. Well, Mark, thanks again for coming back on. We will definitely get you scheduled, maybe for, midsummer preseason update on all things NIL. Keep doing what you're doing, and thanks again for being a part of Tech Tuesday.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate it, and I wish everyone success.
For our listeners, we wish you success and just want to remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of every interview to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Tech Tuesday every week, and just about every day we try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey, great stuff from Mark Koesterer, the Players NIL. Before we go, we got some great stuff with our sponsors, and we encourage you to go check them out. Hometown, you find them at hometown.com. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards, sidelineinteractive.com. Athletic Surveys, go to athleticsurveys.com. Huddle, I used them as a football coach, and as an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Booster Hub, the #1 Booster Club software program. Home Campus, it's a platform you're going to use every day. Go to homecampus.com. Beacon Creative, part of Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Check them out, Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to content creation. And Gipper, Turn your school's social media marketing into a D1 looking, professional looking platform. That's Gipper.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.